This morning we're on with the GeoSync GO Plus webinars. We're looking at deploying GeoSync GO Workflows. Just a little bit of, review on workflows, but first of all, GeoSync GO Plus is really the primary interface that we're going to use. That's our focus today. Workflows are critical for the use of GeoSync GO Plus in managing our work. What's different about a workflow than the GIS layers or the tile sets that we've been looking at the past couple of weeks is that the workflows are really dynamic data sets. They are data sets that are set up for allowing data capture, including new features, inspections, or attribute updates. A workflow itself is really is a defined table, or what we might say is a feature class, or it's also similar to maybe a data dictionary that has been used, if that's a term that you used, or a layer. So we've defined a table, we've defined a structure for collecting or capturing data. The workflow will have a form associated with it. That form might be designed to provide GNSS GPS integration. That is, if I'm collecting data, GPS data, then I need a place to enter my attributes. The form can be used to capture new features, even if I'm not using GPS, and it also can provide a form for doing inspections if I'm visiting existing features in which I need to do an inspection, such as maybe a valve inspection where I'm visiting those and I want to record the number of turns and the status of valves. The workflow also provides some setup in terms of reporting and exporting. So it's designed to really provide integration back into our GIS primarily, or into a data management system. Workflows are created in the Workflow Wizard, and we're not going to spend time going through that today. We just want to review a little bit on that. Workflow Wizard can be accessed from the GeoSync GO desktop, or there's a GeoSync GO Asset Management tool, which is new, which will be introduced in the weeks ahead. The Workflow Wizard allows us to create and customize our workflows. We can essentially design our data dictionary, design that layer for data capture, design the form that we're going to use. The Workflow Wizard always uses, from the desktop, is going to use the current database connection, so it's important that your database is connected to the cloud data connection in order to be able to get the best use with GeoSync GO Plus. So once we do that, once we get the layers in place, then we'll be able to see those on our map. We have a GeoSync GO Plus project view. We'll be able to add, our goal is to be able to add that workflow layer to our project for use in the field or office. Basic steps involved to deploy a workflow are, first, you got to create a workflow, and we're going to assume today that we've already done that. Then once the workflow is created, you'll sign into GeoSync GO Plus, and you've got to be an administrator to set this up. But then we'll add a workflow source. We'll configure a layer from that source with a symbol. We'll add a layer to a project that we've set up, and then once that project is saved, then it's available for any of the users that have been set up for use of that project. So we deploy the map, and then we can use that in the field for data capture. So from the really from GeoSync GO Plus, from the management view from the web management tool, the things that we're going to work with, again, just like we've done the last couple of weeks with your GIS layers, would be your sources, styles, and layers to configure your workflows before you add them to a project. A couple important considerations that are critical if you want to get the best experience out of workflows with GeoSync GO Plus is, one, the GeoSync GO Plus project that you're using needs to be linked to your workflow project. That's necessary in order for you to be able to have access to the forms. The project number is the key for this. From the desktop, we'll look at this in a second, but from the desktop we publish workflows and assign those to certain projects. So we need our GeoSync GO Plus to reference that same project number. And then also we'd like to see the project that has cloud auto processing active. And you can do that from the desktop software and configure that. That way we can see real-time updates in our map. So let's take a look first, looking at just the workflow side of this. We won't build a workflow. We've already got one created. But from the desktop software, if we want to create a workflow, we use the workflow wizard. Let's go ahead and open that up. And from this wizard, we can create a number of workflows. We already have one created. The one I'm going to focus in on is a fire hydrant workflow, because my goal is to deploy a workflow where I can map new fire hydrants and capture some information about that, about those features. So if we come in here and look at the settings, so we can see we have a table or a data dictionary designed for our fire hydrant on the information that we want to capture and store and use. We also have created a form for this. This is the data capture form we're going to use, and we've named it GPS hydrant because we're going to primarily use that with our GPS device in the field. And one thing that's really important is we know what project we've assigned that workflow to. So the project, here's the project number. That's an important consideration. And then our form designer, we've gone in and actually designed our form that we're going to use in the field, and all that's been saved using the Save button, and that deploys it to this particular project. So our workflow has been set up. So the next thing we're going to do is sign in to GeoSync GO Plus. I've already signed in to this in my account. Now I'm looking at my account settings. I can go to the menu, and the thing that I want to do, need to set up a source. Need to configure this workflow so I have access to it in my GeoSync GO Plus map. So the process is I go to Sources, and you'll see I already have a number of sources already set up in here, but I'm going to create a new one for my new workflow. I'm going to call this GPS hydrant, and the type is going to be MapSync Cloud SQL, and it will always be that for workflow configuration. The database, as you open this up, you will see a database will be listed named Workflow. Select it, and then from here we can come to our table and we'll pick the correct data dictionary or table that has been configured. In this case, I want to use my fire hydrant, and it puts an extension called LYR, which would be layer fire hydrant, is what I'm going to configure, and then save. And now my connection has been completed. I will go to set up a style, and in this case, I already have a style set up for hydrant. I'm just going to use that style that's already there, so I don't need to create a new one. The next step in this process will be to add a layer. And I have a number of layers already configured in this particular account. I'm going to create a new one. We'll give this a name, GPS hydrant. And then we can do some configuration in here. One thing I want to be able to do, because I'm going to do the mapping, I'd like to be able to zoom in a little closer. I'm going to move this maximum zoom up to like about level 21. And that's just something you have to configure till you get comfortable with what's appropriate with the level of detail that you need to have for your particular work. We'll go ahead and select our source, which is GPS hydrant, the one we just configured. We need to set up a label field, and I'm going to use fire hydrant ID for that label field. Now you notice we're not going to configure this, but we can get a little bit more sophisticated here. We can actually begin to filter this workflow if we wanted to do so. As an example, if we were out mapping fire hydrants for, say, 2 different systems, let's say that our job involved 2 different utility systems, and we were mapping those in the same workflow, then we could actually filter that so we could create a layer for each system. We could collect the data in one data dictionary, but we could actually separate that data if we wanted to put it into different projects. So we've got a lot of flexibility in terms of setting up the layers for display. We need to add a style in order to configure the layer, and I'm going to pick hydrant as my style. And again, from here, we have also some options to be able to configure this a little, to do a little more advanced configuration, such as if we wanted to have a certain hydrant type or manufacturer and we wanted to color code those differently on the screen, then we could set up some conditionals, set up a field, let's say, such as fire hydrant model equal, and then assign different symbols to that. Then we can actually color code our feature. In this case, we're going to just keep it simple. We're just going to use a hydrant style, and we'll save. And now we have added a GPS hydrant layer. This is the process you would always go through for any of the workflows that you set up. You're going to go through and add a source, and then configure a layer with a symbol. The next step in this process is we need to assign the layer to the project that we're going to use. We have one project in this account, and so from here we need to look at this particular project, and I want you to notice that this alias is set. This alias matches the ID for my project. This is important because I need this GeoSync GO Plus project to reference my my project where I've created my workflow. So this has been set up properly. And then go down into my layers, and I need to add another layer here, which is our GPS hydrant layer. So we've now added this to our map project. And we've already configured, this project's already set up, so we already have a tile set, we already have some other layers in place, we've already configured our users, and our other settings look good, and we'll go ahead and save our changes to the project. The next step is to test that project, and we can do that by going to our home screen and selecting GPS test project, and now our project is opened up. And we zoom in on this, then what we're going to see on the screen is we've got a number of layers. We have a street map in the background. We've actually got some address points that have been included in this particular map. And then in this area, we've got a number of control monuments that have been set up for whatever reason, and we can ID any of these features if we want to get the attribute information associated with those. The purpose of having a workflow layer, though, is to actually be able to really capture data. That's its primary purpose. So we'll give this an example. If we have GPS configured, I'm going to go ahead and turn on GPS on my desktop here so we can get a GPS point set. And so our GPS is turned on the screen at this location, and so we want to use our workflow to map a new fire hydrant at that location. So we use our imagination a little bit to know that as we move, as we're walking to that fire hydrant, our GPS position would move with us, and then once we get there, we can collect a new point. So what we would do is we would select the GPS marker, and then we go to our list of forms. We have GPS hydrant. That's the workflow that we just deployed, and then we can fill out this as new hydrant. Location is Blazer Parkway. We can enter the main size, the model, fire hydrant type. It's a fire hydrant, whoever the owner is. We can look and do a little bit of inspection here. Does it need paint? Yes. Does it need service? No. And any other comments that we need to do at this point, and then save. And now we have created a new feature in our workflow. Now, we can also, we don't have to use GPS to map features. We can also just create a feature on the screen. So if, in the event that we have a feature where we just want to set a point, then we can do that by just clicking on the screen. I'm going to turn my GPS off. And then we'll come here to this intersection, and we will go ahead and add another hydrant in this case, and we'll call this new hydrant 2 location, Fountain Court, and we can, again, fire hydrant, and we can mark off some of our attributes here. And then we'll have that. And you'll notice that at this point, our points have updated, and we now have a new hydrant on the screen. So these are the points that we just mapped, and they are now available for use on the map itself. And that is a workflow. As we've configured our hydrant workflow and added that, then we now have access to this feature. Now back on the desktop, if we want to look at those features, then we can come back in and look at our fire hydrant layer, and we'll notice that we just mapped 2 fire hydrants. We can access those in the office. And then from here, we can then export those to a shapefile for use if we needed to import those back into our GIS. If you're using ArcGIS and you wanted to import those back in and use those to add to your master hydrant feature class, then you could do so. Any additional mapping that you do with this form is going to create a new feature. We can come back and do another feature here. Fire hydrant, no, save. And the update process takes, maybe about 30 seconds for that form or that report to make its way through and update the feature. If we come back over to our map in the office, we should be able to reopen that fire hydrant. Give it a few more seconds to update. And now we see we have another hydrant that's been mapped. If you're in the field and you're mapping with this, as you move, by the time you get to the next hydrant, your previous point should have updated on the map. One thing, if you want to keep track, much more quickly in terms of the workflow points that you've collected, you can also turn on your history layer if you want, and your history layer will turn on and actually show you the points as you map those. It actually would have a list of all of the history that you've collected. So I'm going to look at my log, history log, for just a minute, and I'm going to clear my log out. And then any new points that I were to, if I pick up, so if we added our history on here, we could actually collect a new point, again, another hydrant, and I'm just going to save that hydrant. And you'll notice there I have a marker that's immediately set if I want to track that in between when the map updates. And we should have a third or a fourth hydrant that we mapped now show up in the office. And so here's the fourth hydrant that we mapped, and then from here we can export that or use that information as needed. So just a quick review back here. If we go back to our account to configure the workflow, we first go to our source, and then we go to layer and set up a layer with a style, and then add that layer to our project and save, and then at that point our workflow is now available for use in the field. Let me come back to our PowerPoint here, and that completes our webinar for today on how to set up and deploy a workflow in GeoSync GO Plus. If you have questions, you can contact us at info@cdpengineers.com or at geosyncgo.com.